Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Have you ever had that feeling when someone you care about suddenly goes quiet? You're used to hearing from them regularly, texts, calls, or maybe just a simple check-in, and then nothing. Complete silence. Maybe you've been on the receiving end of this, or maybe you've experienced it yourself. Either way, it hits hard. You start wondering, did I mess up? Or did something happen? And the worst part? You don't know what to do about it. It's like you've been erased from their life. But then, something strange happens. After a while, when you pull back and stop reaching out, they suddenly start coming around. You notice that they reach out more, asking what's been going on, and suddenly they seem to care again. So, why does this happen? Why does silence, specifically the no-contact rule, have such a powerful effect on people? Well, if you've ever been curious about why the no-contact rule works so well, today's video is exactly what you need. We're going to break down 7 solid reasons why it works on just about everyone, and how you can use it to your advantage, whether you're trying to get someone's attention or just trying to clear your mind and figure out what's best for you. But before we jump into it, let me share something real quick that really hits home. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Think about that for a second. What he's saying is that when you stop constantly chasing or needing something or someone, you gain control. And that's exactly what happens when you stop reaching out. Whether consciously or not, people begin to realize that they might lose you. And when that happens, they suddenly value you more. Now, I know it might sound counterintuitive. How could silence or distance make someone want you more? But that's the thing. The no-contact rule taps into something deep in all of us. The fear of loss, the craving for what's scarce, and the undeniable pull of mystery. Today, we're going to break down exactly why this works and how it can shift the power dynamics in a relationship. But hey, before we get into all that, I want to hear from you. Have you ever tried the no-contact rule? Maybe you've tried it on an ex or even a friend, and you saw things shift. Or maybe you've been on the receiving end, where someone went silent and you found yourself wondering, what happened? Let me know your experiences in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear how it worked for you. Who knows? Your story might help someone else who's going through the same thing. All right, enough talking. Let's dive into 7 reasons why the no-contact rule works, and how you can use it to bring clarity, and maybe even bring someone back into your life. Let's get started. Number 1, psychological reaction to loss. Loss is one of the most intense emotions we experience as humans, whether it's losing a loved one, a cherished relationship, or even something as simple as a daily routine. It leaves a deep imprint on our psyche. The void that follows isn't just emotional, it's biological. Our brains are hardwired to react to loss because it disrupts the comfort and stability we've grown accustomed to. And when the no-contact rule is applied, this primal reaction to loss comes into play in profound ways. Think about a time when someone who was once a big part of your life suddenly disappeared. Maybe it was a friend you used to talk to every day, or a partner who ended things without warning. At first, you might brush it off as a small shift, but over time, that absence starts to weigh on you. You catch yourself checking your phone, scrolling through old messages, and replaying conversations in your mind. That's your brain trying to fill the void. It's searching for the sense of connection and familiarity it lost. Now imagine being on the other side of this scenario. When you implement the no-contact rule, the person who distanced themselves from you begins to feel this void. At first, they may think nothing of it. They might even feel relief, assuming they've made the right choice. But as the days turn into weeks, something shifts. The silence becomes loud. The absence they once ignored starts to feel like a missing piece they can't ignore anymore. Why this happens? Humans thrive on habits and connections. When someone becomes part of our daily life, they occupy mental and emotional space within us. Their absence isn't just noticed, it creates a gap. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect, which suggests that our minds fixate on unfinished business. When someone is left wondering why you've pulled away or how you're managing without them, they begin to dwell on it more and more. For example, think about a person who once had the comfort of your consistent attention, your texts, calls, or shared moments. Suddenly, you go silent. They might not admit it, but they'll start to wonder, what's going on in their life without me? Why aren't they reaching out? Are they moving on? These questions can consume them, creating a sense of unease that grows stronger with time. This psychological reaction isn't just emotional, it's also subconscious. Loss triggers a survival instinct. It pushes the other person to evaluate what they've lost and whether it's something they can afford to let go. That feeling of missing someone is their brain's way of telling them they've lost something valuable. Even if they were the ones to walk away, your absence forces them to confront the reality of that choice. Loss is a teacher, but it's also a mirror. It makes people realize what truly matters. And when you step back and create space, you allow the other person to reflect. Your absence is no longer just a void. It becomes a message. It says, I won't chase you, but my worth remains. Have you ever noticed how the silence after a loss can speak louder than any words? Drop an affirmation in the comments. I honor my worth, even in silence. Because sometimes, letting someone feel your absence is the most powerful way to remind them of your presence. Number 2, the need for both stability and uncertainty. Relationships thrive on balance, a delicate mix of stability and uncertainty. Stability gives us comfort, a sense of safety, and the assurance that someone is there for us. But here's the twist. Too much of it can lead to complacency. Imagine eating your favorite dish every single day. Eventually, the flavor becomes predictable, even dull. Relationships work the same way. We need moments of excitement, mystery, and even a bit of unpredictability to keep things fresh and engaging. When you suddenly go silent, you introduce a ripple in their predictable world. Maybe you've been their constant source of attention, always available at a moment's notice. Then one day, you stop reaching out. The change is subtle, yet powerful. They begin to wonder, what happened? Did I do something wrong? This uncertainty stirs their thoughts, creating a sense of intrigue. Suddenly, your absence becomes more noticeable than your presence ever was. This reaction isn't arbitrary. It's deeply rooted in human psychology. The brain craves stability for survival, but it also thrives on uncertainty for stimulation. Philosopher Seneca once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." By stepping back, you create the friction that shakes up their comfort zone and forces them to reevaluate their feelings for you. Let's imagine a scenario. You've been consistently texting someone every morning, and they've grown used to it. They might not consciously appreciate it, but it's become a part of their routine. One day you stop. At first, they may not notice much, but as the hours and days pass, something shifts. They begin to miss that sense of stability you provided. And yet, the unpredictability of your silence keeps them on edge. It's a powerful mix. Comfort suddenly disrupted by mystery. This balance of stability and uncertainty is also why stories, adventures, and surprises captivate us. As Maya Angelou beautifully put it, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. By pulling back, you evoke a feeling they won't forget: curiosity, longing, and even admiration for the value you bring to their life. Uncertainty, when used wisely, can reignite their interest. It forces them to reflect on how they feel about you and what your presence means to them. Instead of being the person who is always there, you become someone worth pursuing. This isn't about manipulation, it's about valuing yourself enough to step back and let them come to terms with how much you mean to them. Think of it like a favorite book. If someone hands you the ending right away, the excitement disappears. But if they leave you with just enough suspense, you can't help but turn the pages. Your silence, your unpredictability, it's that suspense. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. By stepping away, you allow their thoughts to be filled with you. They'll remember your kindness, your presence, and your value, but they'll also feel the spark of missing you. Have you ever noticed how a little mystery can reignite interest? Drop an affirmation in the comments: I balance stability with mystery. Because sometimes the best way to be unforgettable is to let your absence speak louder than your presence ever could. Number 3. Mystery fuels attraction. Humans are wired to seek answers to what they don't understand. Mystery stirs the mind, ignites curiosity, and keeps people emotionally engaged. In relationships, this concept is even more potent. When everything about you feels predictable, there's little to keep someone's attention hooked. But when a layer of mystery surrounds you, it creates an irresistible pull, a desire to uncover what's hidden. Now think about this. When you withdraw from constant interaction, texts, calls, or updates, it's not just silence you're creating, you're crafting a sense of intrigue. The other person begins to wonder what happened. Why have they stopped reaching out? Did something change? In that space of unspoken questions, they naturally feel drawn to you. It's not manipulation. It's a natural psychological response to the unknown. Imagine a scenario where someone once had access to every facet of your life. Your routines, your thoughts, your emotions. When you take that away, it forces them to pause and reevaluate. Suddenly they start to fill the silence with their own imagination. Are you exploring new opportunities, meeting new people, growing in ways they hadn't noticed before? This absence doesn't diminish your value. Instead, it magnifies it. It turns your presence into something special rather than something expected. As Seneca wisely said, "What fortune has made yours is not your own." Your time, energy, and presence are treasures, not to be taken for granted. When you step back and create space, it reminds the other person of what they stand to lose. The unpredictability adds an edge, making you appear more dynamic and layered, someone worth pursuing. Mystery doesn't mean being secretive or playing games. It's about embracing the richness of your individuality. You don't have to explain every move or thought. Your silence speaks volumes. It says, "I value my time. I respect my boundaries. I am enough on my own." Now take a moment to think about your worth. Have you ever noticed how stepping back makes others lean in? If you've ever felt your absence shift the dynamic, let the world know. Drop a comment below. I respect my worth. Because you do, and so should they. Number 4, scarcity increases desire. Imagine holding a rare gem in your hand, knowing it's one of a kind. Would you toss it aside carelessly? Of course not. Its scarcity makes it precious. Now think about this in the context of relationships. When something, or someone, is always readily available, it's easy to take it for granted. But when that availability diminishes, desire has a way of surging to the surface. Let's say you've always been there for someone. Whenever they call, you pick up. Whenever they text, you reply instantly. You make time for them, no questions asked. In their mind, your presence becomes predictable, even guaranteed. But what happens when you suddenly step back? When the texts stop, and you're no longer just a phone call away? You're no longer a constant, you're a question mark. And that shift changes everything. Scarcity flips the dynamic, pulling their attention toward you in a way that abundance never could. Marcus Aurelius once said, "What we do now echoes in eternity." In relationships, the choices you make about how you value your time and energy create echoes in how others perceive you. When you introduce scarcity, whether through intentional silence or by focusing on your own growth, you make a statement. You tell the world, "I am not here to be taken for granted." And trust me, that kind of quiet confidence is magnetic. This isn't about playing games or manipulating emotions. It's about preserving your worth. Scarcity isn't about withholding yourself out of spite. It's about reminding others and yourself that your presence is a privilege, not a given. Think about the moments in your life when you've truly appreciated someone. Often, it's not during constant connection, but in their absence when you realize their value. By stepping back, you give the other person the gift of perspective. Now, here's where things get interesting. Scarcity doesn't just create desire, it creates urgency. The fear of losing you sparks a need to act. They might start re-evaluating their priorities, wondering, how do I fix this? How do I make them stay? In this process, they're reminded of your uniqueness, your energy, and all the qualities they once took for granted. So take a moment to reflect on how you value yourself. Have you been too available? Have you allowed others to assume your presence is guaranteed? If you're ready to reclaim your worth, drop a comment below. I'm a priority, not an option. Because when you see yourself this way, so will others. Number 5, respect for yourself and the relationship. The no contact rule isn't just about pushing someone away, it's about drawing a clear line to show respect for yourself. In relationships, it's easy to get caught up in giving and giving without pausing to take care of your own needs. Over time, this can blur your sense of self-worth and diminish the respect you deserve. If you're constantly putting someone else's needs above your own, it's easy to forget that you too deserve respect and care. Think about it. How often do you feel underappreciated or emotionally drained because you've been pouring everything into a relationship that isn't giving back in equal measure? When you apply no contact, you're not doing it to hurt the other person. You're doing it because you understand that your emotional health, your boundaries, and your self-worth are sacred. The space you create by stepping away from constant communication serves as a clear reminder. You are not willing to accept neglect or disregard. It's a declaration that you value yourself enough to take a step back and assess what you truly need from this relationship. I respect myself too much to be treated any less than I deserve, is the silent message you send. And it's important to remember, no contact isn't about manipulation or trying to force someone's hand. It's about drawing a line in the sand and reminding both yourself and the other person that there are standards you refuse to compromise on. It's a move of emotional self-preservation. By maintaining that distance, you're sending a clear message about your boundaries. It's like saying, I will not settle for less than mutual respect, understanding and appreciation. And even though it may seem like a withdrawal, it's actually a step forward in the relationship, toward building a healthier dynamic where both individuals respect one another. The longer you're willing to tolerate unhealthy dynamics, the more you teach the other person that you can be mistreated without consequence. By applying no contact, you're enforcing the boundaries that help build a relationship grounded in respect. In the end, no contact isn't just about ending poor behavior. It's about cultivating a relationship where both parties give and receive love, respect, and care. Take a moment to reflect. Are you giving more than you're receiving? If so, you deserve to be treated with the respect you show others. I want you to make a comment. I choose to honor my boundaries. Number 6. Fear of missing out. FOMO. The fear of missing out is a powerful force in our lives. It's that unsettling feeling when you see someone enjoying an experience or connection that you're not part of. Maybe you see your friends hanging out without you, or you spot your ex moving on with someone new. Whatever the situation, it triggers a mix of jealousy, longing, and a sense of being left behind. That emotional reaction is real, and it speaks to the core of our need to feel valued, included, and important. Now, let's think about the impact of your silence. When you've been in constant contact with someone, sharing thoughts, messages, and moments, and suddenly you go quiet, it starts as just a minor shift. At first, they may not even notice, but as days pass, something begins to stir within them. What are they doing without me? Who are they spending time with? Have they moved on? These questions linger in their mind, slowly growing in intensity. That growing uncertainty is where FOMO kicks in. The person begins to fear that they're being replaced, that they're losing their place in your life. It's a fear that's rooted in deep emotions. Fear of rejection, fear of being forgotten, fear of not being enough. This fear isn't just fleeting, it's primal. It taps into our fundamental need for connection and validation. And the more uncertain they feel about your absence, the stronger the fear becomes. As time passes, their desire to reconnect with you intensifies. They want to know if they're still a part of your world. They're not just missing out on your company. They're scared that the relationship is slipping away and they might never get it back. That fear pushes them to take action. The urgency of FOMO becomes a powerful motivator, urging them to reach out, to find a way back into your life. This is why creating distance can be such a potent tool. It taps into something deep within people, the desire not to be forgotten, replaced, or left behind. FOMO works because it heightens the stakes in a relationship. It adds a sense of urgency. When you withdraw, you don't just give the other person space. You create a mental and emotional gap they want to fill. The fear of losing something they once took for granted pushes them to act before it's too late. FOMO amplifies their desire to reconnect, to get back what they feel is slipping away. So remember this, sometimes it's not about playing games. It's about giving the other person the chance to experience the void your absence creates. The fear of missing out will often drive them to action, making them realize how much they value what they thought they could take for granted. Number 7. The open loop. Ever been hooked by a TV show or book where you couldn't put it down because you were desperate to know what happens next? That feeling of being on the edge, waiting for the story to continue. It's not just a storytelling technique. It's called an open loop, and it's powerful. In relationships, leaving things unresolved creates this same psychological effect. It's like leaving a puzzle unfinished, and your brain can't help but obsess over finding that missing piece. Now think about this. When you stop communicating with someone who's used to hearing from you regularly, you create an emotional open loop in their mind. Suddenly, they don't have the answers they need, and it nags at them. Why are they not responding? What happened to them? Did I do something wrong? These questions start to swirl in their head, and that uncertainty becomes an emotional anchor. The more questions they have without answers, the stronger their need to find closure. What's fascinating is that the more unanswered questions there are, the more emotionally invested the person becomes. In a way, you've turned the situation into an emotional cliffhanger. It's like pulling them into a narrative they didn't expect, and now they're stuck in that mental loop, trying to figure out the ending. Just like a cliffhanger in a show or a book, it doesn't matter how many times they try to move on. Your silence keeps them mentally engaged. They can't shake the feeling that something's unfinished. This feeling of longing to know the missing piece drives the person to reach out, hoping to fill that gap. It's not about wanting to fix things immediately. It's about finding the answers to quiet the noise in their head. And as they reach out to you, they're drawn to you because the loop hasn't been closed. They want to resolve that uncertainty. As Maya Angelou once said, we all have a story to tell, but how we leave it, how we end it, will stay with us forever. In relationships, how we leave things unresolved can be just as powerful as how we finally address them. The open loop creates a sense of urgency, a pull that's almost irresistible. So the next time you feel tempted to respond immediately, remember that the open loop you've created by stepping back is giving the other person space to engage with their emotions. It may just be the key to them realizing the value you bring and how much they miss your presence. I want you to make a comment. I trust the process. And finally, does the no contact rule work 100% of the time? No, it doesn't. Relationships are messy and emotions are complex. The no contact rule isn't a magic fix. It can't solve everything. It's not going to work if someone has already emotionally detached or if there are deep-rooted issues that need addressing. It's also not a one-size-fits-all solution. However, in many cases, it can be incredibly effective. The no contact rule gives both individuals time and space to reflect, heal, and gain clarity. It helps you step back and think about what you truly want without being clouded by constant interaction. For some, this time apart can lead to a realization of what's truly important. But it's important to remember that the no contact rule isn't just about getting someone back. It's also about helping you decide whether you even want them back. It's about clarity, self-respect, and growth. In the end, it helps you better understand the kind of relationship and connection you deserve, whether that means reconnecting with someone or moving on entirely. It's a tool for self-discovery and healing, not a guaranteed outcome. Thank you for joining me today. Remember, the journey of self-respect and growth starts with small, intentional steps. Whether you're practicing the no contact rule or simply reclaiming your peace, trust that you're moving toward a better, stronger version of yourself. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Together, let's keep building our worth and resilience.